let's practice combining Boolean operators. We can combine the and, or, and not operators together to form more complex conditional tests. To evaluate these, always start with the expression that's inside the most deeply nested set of parentheses. Then evaluate that expression and record the result. Work your way out until you get to the least nested set of parentheses. Just like arithmetic operators have an order of operations, Boolean operators have an order of operations as well. If you're really curious about it, you can Google to find out the order of Boolean operators. If you do that, it tells you that the highest priority level is not, so that would always be applied first. Then the and operator's in the middle, and then the or operator has the lowest priority. And that's just something that you can memorize. In this class, I always use parentheses to uniquely describe the Boolean expressions. And so there's never any confusion, and you don't necessarily need to memorize the Boolean order of operations. But again, it's not a bad thing to know, especially if you're going to go on in computer science. So let's evaluate an example expression. Suppose that we wanted to find out whether it's not true that person A is taller than person B and person B is also taller than person C. We would have to rewrite that for the computer using some relational operators. Remember, the computer can't evaluate English expressions like is taller than. Instead, you have to use a relational operator to compare numeric values. So here we'd be comparing is A bigger than B and B is bigger than C. And then we want to know if all of that, if the combination of those two expressions is not true. Let's evaluate it using some sample data. Suppose that A is 6 and B is 4 and C is 7. What's the result of this expression? So the first thing that I do when I evaluate these expressions is I just copy the original expression. And then the next thing that I do is fill in the values for A and B and C. So in this case, A is 6 and B is 4 and B is 4 and C is 7. So I'm just filling those in to my expression. Now I start with the most deeply nested set of parentheses. And in this case, that could be the 6 greater than 4. So I evaluate that expression to see if it's true. 6 is bigger than 4, so I'm going to get a true answer there in Python. And now I'm going to evaluate the next nested set of parentheses. Is the 4 bigger than 7? And 4 is not bigger than 7, that's going to be false. So now I'm evaluating not true and false. And again, I have to think about what's the most deeply nested set of parentheses. That's this part right here. And I know that if one part of an expression is true and the other part's false, and we join them with the and operation, the result is going to be false. So the inside of the parentheses is false. And then the not operation takes the inverse of a value. So it's going to return true as my final answer to this expression. So again, that expression was testing to see whether A is greater than B and B is greater than C is false. Basically what it means whenever we put the not operation in front of something. It's like testing to see whether this expression is not true. Let's do another one. Suppose that we do that same expression, not A greater than B and B greater than C. But let's do it with some different data values. So again, I'm going to start by just copying it over and then filling in my data values. So this time I have A is 3, B is 4, and C is 7. So I want to see is 3 bigger than 4, and that's false. And then we're going to just copy the second expression over. Now we're going to go to the next deeply nested set of parentheses. That is 4 bigger than 7, and that's false. And now I'm going to evaluate the middle part of the expression to see is false and false. It's the result there. Remember that if both of the sub-expressions are false, then the overall answer is false. And then finally, applying the not to the beginning gives you the inverse of the answer, so that will be true. So my overall expression in the second example is true as well. Let's consider another expression. This one uses the or operator on the inside. This time we're seeing is not of A greater than B or B greater than A. So this time we're trying to evaluate the expression not is A bigger than B or is B bigger than C. Just like last time, I always start these by copying the expression. Then I fill in the data values. So here we're filling in is 6 bigger than 4 or is 4 bigger than 7. And then we start with the most deeply nested set of parentheses. So I'm going to start with is 6 bigger than 4? That's true. And then this time I'm just going to evaluate the next set of nested parentheses just right on the same line. And that's okay. You can do that, or you can break it up into separate lines if that makes you feel more comfortable. So is 4 bigger than 7? That's false. Now I'm going to evaluate the center part of the parentheses where I have true or false, and combining a true answer and a false answer with the or operator returns a true. And then finally, the not takes the inverse of that, so my answer overall will be false. Let's try that same expression again, but use some different data values. In this example, we're trying it with is 3 bigger than 4 or is 4 bigger than 7? 3 bigger than 4, that's false. 4 bigger than 7, that's also false. And now I'm going to evaluate the expression in the center parentheses, false or false, that's false. And then taking the not operation, applying it to the false value, gives us the inverse, which is true. In that example, the final answer will be true.
So you can see the answer to these expressions
just depends on the data values associated with the variables in our program at the time that the expression's evaluated.